Welcome back everybody to part 3 of this series where we're recreating all of the Sega Genesis Lemmings levels in the Sega Master System version. We've got a lot of levels to get through today, 13 in total, and we're going to start off here with the first taxing level. These are going to be all of the taxing levels in this video, and we're starting off with a really nice level. I like little boxy puzzles like this where there's not too much building and where you've really got to be creative with your solution, and that's definitely the case for this one. Now, as we're getting into this one, I want to let you know that all of the first 4 categories have now been completed. So the patch has been updated to contain fun, tricky, taxing and mayhem levels. That just leaves Sunsoft and Present left to go, but they are the biggest categories. There's 29 in Sunsoft and 30 in Present to get through, so it's going to be a little while until we get all of those. I think I'm about 40% of the way through this task so far. There have been a couple of levels, I'll point them out as we go along, that have been what I'm calling momentum killers, where I have just struggled to build the level in a way that feels faithful to what they were wanting to do, while at the same time also being workable on the Master System engine. We've got a couple of those in Taxing, and then we've got a couple more in Mayhem. And I don't know about the rest because I've not built them, but we will have some recycled maps, so it's not going to be quite as mammoth a task as I first thought it would be, because there are a few repeats in Present and Sunsoft from the first 3 categories. I do like, actually, that they didn't reuse any of the standard maps for Sunsoft or Present. At least as far as I'm aware, I've not seen any that reuse any of the standard maps. Maybe they've snuck one in there and I've just not seen it yet, but as far as I know, they are all going to be Mega Drive exclusive levels, and that's something I'm really looking forward to. This first solution is quite nice. I like having to go forwards to go back, to then go forwards again and get to the goal. I did have to make a few tweaks to this level though, because of the one-sided flamethrower, and I do like the bricks in the Hell style. I think it's far cleaner on the Master System version. We don't get any jankiness because of the smaller builders, or even just the bashers hooking onto things you don't want them to hook onto. So I think I did a fairly faithful recreation, even if it is slightly different from what you would expect it to look like with the original tile set. So this was The Bridge is Breaking Down, the first of the 13 levels. Very happy to get this one out of the way. I think it's a really nice level. Very good design there from the Mega Drive team. Let's now move on to level number 2. This is Temporary Peace, and this is one of those reused maps, but it does have a couple of changes. We've got a bunch of steel in the middle there, meaning that we cannot go the short way round, and that means we're going to be bashing all the way through the bloomin' roof. Now, because some of the levels in Taxing are just waiting for a lemming to complete an action, quite often going about halfway across the available map, I'm going to be speeding up the video ever so slightly here and there, just to try and save a little bit of time, because we've got 44 minutes together in this video, and that would be closer to an hour if I didn't speed up in a couple of places. So we've got one coming up here when we bash through the ceiling. Now, I don't think there was any level in the original 120 levels which made you bash through the ceiling quite like they do in this level. And again, I think it's quite clever. On an engine where you're not playing at such a low speed, I can see this working really well, but I got very frustrated waiting for the basher to get all the way across. It's one of those things, it's just the nature of this engine. It's one of the slower engines on all of Lemmings, especially because it's only 8-bit, and we are pushing the hardware to its absolute limits with the Master System version. And you can see even now with 10 Lemmings, we're starting to get slowed down. We're going to have 20 Lemmings on screen at some point soon, so it is going to get very laggy. One thing I've been trying to do on not just these videos, but every single Lemmings video I've ever made, I've tried to do as much lag reduction as possible without it harming the solution experience, because the solution to me is the most important part of the video. If you can't see what you're supposed to do because you're going off screen all the time, then I don't think it's quite as easy to follow. Now, we did encounter some of that classic Master System jankiness towards the top of this level. Of course, that top tile is treated as solid regardless of what's placed upon it, and that means you can get trapped lemmings, and we'll see a trapped lemming in just a moment or two when we try and get the bridge fully reconstructed. And there's also a little bit of jankiness with how the builders and bashers interact in this one. You can't bash out of a builder in the Master System version, and that does create a little bit of funkiness when it comes to doing a load of the things you'd normally do in the Genesis version. Now, that basher up top actually created a little hole that he managed to walk across, but then all of the other lemmings are going to be falling in and out of place. That's why we've got a couple of extra skills and maybe what you are expecting to see in this particular level. I do tweak the skills to try and make sure they're relatively well placed for where they are in the difficulties. Sometimes levels get easier, sometimes levels might get a little bit harder. And there was our first fast forward sequence, because we've got to dig through all of this bloody dirt. And you know what I feel about the dirt, so I'll say it's my least favourite. I think I've made that abundantly clear already over the last couple of videos. Now, just here, we have to bash to then build, and I built in the wrong place first time, frustratingly. But then if we build in the correct place, we are then able to start releasing all of the lemmings. But I messed up my timings quite badly. I should have done the building around about now, and we pay the price because we are going to be getting a lot of those lemmings turning around. I had that sense of dread come through me when I saw just how close it was to getting the timing just right and making this level a little bit shorter. Thank goodness the clock isn't the big concern in this level. We have a plentiful time limit, so we've got 90 seconds, in-game seconds, not real-time seconds, probably close to 2.5 minutes. Get all of the remaining lemmings into the goal. It's one of those things, it's sometimes unavoidable. You mess up your timings, and then you do have to be a little bit patient, and of course there's no fast forward on the Master System version because we're pushing it to its limits anyway. I think a fast forward might make the console explode if you're running it on real hardware. I'd be very curious to know actually whether the 1 megabyte ROMs work on original hardware. I've got a feeling they should do, but you never know. If you've got an Evercade or something similar, please do let me know if you have any issues with it, and I can try troubleshooting the best I can. I'm not that familiar with the SEGA Master System. I'm fairly familiar with assembly coding, which is what this game is coded in, but most of my ROM hacking experience has been in the Pokemon games on the Game Boy, and we know that they are a very, very different beast to what we have on this home console. Even though the colours and things are fairly similar, it's probably not that difficult to convert this into a Game Boy Color game, if you're far, far smarter than I anyway. But that was level 2 all complete. Let's move ourselves on to No Choice but to follow them. This is a 100% level. I do like the 100% levels. And this is another repeat map. We've seen this map before, so we know what we're playing with. There is a little bit of funkiness actually in the way the lemmings interact with those top right-hand corners. If a lemming goes in there, they get trapped. So we do have to be very careful with where we build and who we make build and when we bash, because otherwise it could end up in a little bit of an all or nothing kind of situation. So we're going to get 2 builders going on there, make sure that no lemmings splat, and then we'll prime our basher, and we'll do basher number 1 here. And because of the placement of the diagonal line there, it's next to impossible to bash through into the bottom row there, so it is fairly kind. I did have to try and readjust a few things for this map compared to the Genesis version. On the Genesis version, the angles at the ends of those pipes are the other way around. but because I've only got a limited amount of space for the tile sets, and there are some custom tiles that absolutely have to be added in because there's no way about it, I did have to make a little bit of a compromise there because there were already quite a few custom tiles in this tile set. My favourite being right at the right hand edge of these diagonal tiles. I had to add a little bit of webbing onto them, so there is a custom tile there, because otherwise they fall into the drink, and we don't want them to fall into the drink either on this or on the other level that used this. It was Lemmings in the Attic, wasn't it? I think that's one of the fun levels that we did together, also shared this map. And just to remind you, in the original version, there are electric traps on the top and bottom rows. The difference here is because I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to do an electric trap, I decided just to add some water. That's going to be a running theme actually. If there's a trap missing, or if there's multiple traps in a level and I've got to pick just one, there's probably going to be either a pitfall or some water, just to try and bridge the gap where there should have been the trap in the first place. But with 100% of the Lemmings saved on that level, we can move ourselves on to level number 4. This is Jump Down. I love this level. It's a dirt style level, but it's probably one of my favourite dirt style levels. I love the little solution here, plus we've got one of my favourite music tracks in all of Lemmings playing. So this is how a dirt style level should be, even though there is a lot of bashing again in this one. They do love the bashers through the dirt style levels. We got 3 of them in this pack alone, in the taxing pack, where the dirt style levels all have the same kind of bashing going on. So I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe they really liked the idea of bashing in different ways, and so they kept it in. And now, much like in the previous dirt style level, we are going to go into super fast forward mode in just a moment, because there's not too much going on screen. I do like that we have just enough builders in this level where if you're really precise with your building, you don't have to tweak the release rate at all. And with those 2 builders going on, we'll now just speed things up, get to the other side of this mound quick, sharp and in a hurry, because there's not much going on at all really with this. We're just waiting for him to get out the other side. Plenty of time in this level as well. It's a long time limit considering we've not got that much terrain. Now I believe, and this could be an urban legend, it could be something that I've picked up and it's absolute nonsense, I believe a lot of the reason why there are so many extra custom levels in the Mega Drive version is because they couldn't fit the whole width of the original levels in. The levels were fairly tall, but they were fairly narrow, and that meant that a lot of these levels, even though there's a lot of bashing and a lot of building, they're not particularly long compared to some of the original levels. I know that a lot of the original 120 levels are very build heavy. Now if you do a precise build with that final builder there on the right hand side, then you are going to get it just finishing before he turns around, and that's what you want to have happen, because otherwise he'll go into the pit and you won't 100% the level, and then if you're like me and you can 100% the level and you didn't do it, you're going to take a restart and go all the way back to the beginning, and you've wasted 5 to 10 minutes of your time, and I didn't want to do that. So I was very glad to get the builder in at the correct spot. I have noticed as well that the Mega Drive level designers, when they're not reusing Oh No More Lemmings levels, they are very keen on their precise building, to the point where there are quite a few pixel perfect builds throughout the course of these levels. In the excitement of winning this level, I forgot to up the release rate all the way up to 99. So again, we've got a little bit of a slow period here, just waiting for the rest of the Lemmings to go into the goal. But I am more than happy to wait, considering this level was fairly simple, all things considered, and it does kind of feel right for its place in the game. I think that early taxing 7 is what this is in the Genesis version. That feels about right for where it should be. It's on a par with the levels you'd see in the original game there. But we can now move ourselves on to the next level. This is Lemmings Search for Treasure, and I think this is a really interesting map. I like having the destroyed pillars up in the sky, and this is a welcome return to having a trap in a level. We've seen a trap in a level for quite some time. It was fun trying to get the traps working in these extra levels, and the way the traps work is slightly different to how it works in the original 120. In the original 120, you just have a flag to say if there's a trap, and then there are checks to see which traps should load. In this set of 120 levels, I've just got a trap ID for each level. I thought that was going to be significantly easier in the long run, and that means that if I add or remove traps, the whole table is going to be the same length, so we're not going to be shifting things around and causing any unintended jankiness, which has happened more times than I care to admit. Although that's the fun of working with just a ROM dump as opposed to somebody's hard work with a disassembly. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way at this point. I really have learned so much doing this hack that I otherwise would not have ever even considered. And it really has helped me improve my skills at ROM hacking. So I was very, very, very happy to sink my teeth into this, and I've got big ideas as well. And now I'm going to give a little bit of context to the ideas before I start talking about them. And this is going to be fairly personal, more personal than I normally get on this channel. So I had a lot of plans for Lemmings about 15 years ago, but I went through some very, very traumatic stuff, and I don't remember much at all about what I did. It was only after a couple of commenters reminded me of things that I've done that I searched through the archives, and I've got to say, about 90% of the stuff that I uploaded between 2010 and 2011, I haven't the foggiest doing it. I really don't remember any of that time at all, and so I'm currently trying to go round, piecing together all the bits that I can about that time period, see what on earth happened, why I did end up falling off the radar for a very long time, and what I was planning on doing, because I'd like to draw a line under a lot of those projects that I wanted to do. I remember making a few Sonic-themed levels at one point in Lemmings, but I don't quite remember what I was doing with them, how I did them, or what even program I was using at the time. I've got a feeling it might have been L++, but I've had a look on my hard drives, and there's no sign of anything L++ at all, so I'm probably going to just try and do it in this ROM. Now, there are going to be a couple of things that are going to be slightly difficult when trying to port over tile sets from other different games. Mostly the fact that we have a consistent palette in the Master System version, and that is something I'm going to make the active choice to maintain. I like having just the colours that we get in this version and no others. I don't want to start changing palettes partway through, because I think it will take away from what I want from any hacks of this game. What's very important to me is that whenever I hack this game, it has to feel true to the original, has to feel true to the Master System version first and foremost, and anything else is a bonus on top of that. So that's why some of the levels that we've got recreated in the Master System are very much in the Master System way first, and then we try and tweak it so it looks vaguely like what we're going after. But now we'll move on to walk through here cautiously. This is the next level, and this is, I believe, a rehash of an Oh No More Lemmings level, and I only know that because before I started doing this project, I created this in the bloody crystal style. So can you imagine the frustration that I had when I saw that I had to do it in the blooming brick style as well? Not to worry though, it's a very, very, very simple level. In fact, it's probably the simplest out of all the levels I had to recreate, because it is just a load of geometric shapes. I've got brushes for everything, so it didn't take too long at all. In fact, this whole level from start to finish only took about 15 minutes, including play testing it as well, so I can't whinge too much. Some of the other levels, they can take blooming hours. If it's a dirt style level, it can take days or weeks, depending on how much effort I have in me, because they are the highest effort levels. And to be fair, they don't even look that good, do they, for what I do? I can't get my styling right for the dirt style levels. I can decorate any other style fairly competently, Struggle a little bit with the SEGA palette and a little bit with the crystal palette, but any of the geometric ones, and especially the fire style, I am very, very happy styling them. And I find probably the brick is the one I default to the most, followed by fire, then crystal, then we've got the SEGA one, then we've got the yellow ones. Never been a fan of those because there were so many of them in the original. And then way down, deep in the depths of hell, we have the dirt style. This is value each moment. This is a horrible level. It's a timed bomber level, but there is a little bit of interesting tech, if you are so generous as to call it tech, that you do in this level. Plus we've got the Origins and Lemmings soundtrack, so it's not all bad. We go kaboom there, and then we want to set our second Lemming off building here so that he gets slowed down. They do actually let you have another builder as well, so you can do it with the first one, but I found you don't need to. There is a couple of frames leeway where you can just do it right, and that means that you don't have to time this one so perfectly, and you can slow it down with the second builder. And then we've got quite a big fall distance on this level, so let the Lemmings go in to the goal. Now there is a squisher trap up top there, which is why we can't just walk across the platform there, so we do have to go down and unfortunately sacrifice another Lemming. There is probably something you could do where you bunch all of the Lemmings up together and only get one squished, and that would be a way to save some skills, but I didn't think of testing it until I'm recording this voiceover now. Please do remember as well that you don't need to put in any passwords to get to any levels. You just need to scroll through on the level select screen and you'll be able to get to the level that you desire. So it's far, far easier to skip between levels. Maybe there's one you want to come back to, maybe there's one you want to skip because you think it's an absolutely hideous level. I wouldn't blame you at all. This is lunchtime, and it's going to be lunchtime for me after recording this voiceover, actually. And if memory serves me correct, this is another reheated leftovers from Oh No More Lemmings. I do believe it is Time Waits for No Lemming in Oh No More Lemmings. I've still not done a full playthrough of Oh No More Lemmings, so I don't know the levels that well at all. I've got to be honest, when I was younger, the prospect of some of those very, very, very difficult levels really did put me off Oh No More Lemmings after you get through Tame. It is on another level entirely. A lot of those levels are harder than even the late Mayhem levels. Save Me looks very, very tame in comparison. This is another level where the solution is quite interesting, and something I wish we saw more of in the original set of Lemmings levels. I like where you have to destroy terrain in interesting ways in order to solve a level. Now, once again, there's a squisher trap in this level, but we're not going to see it because it's all the way over on the far left. And now the trick to this level is to dig away the pillar on the right-hand side here. We can take advantage, of course, of the Master System version, checking the bottom left pixel for collision for diggers. So that means we can get all the way down and we don't need to worry so much about accidentally walking off the edge. So you can do it a little bit loosey-goosey compared to what I did there. And now, one thing that is fairly tricky is getting that builder in just the right spot. If you build too early, you'll end up running out of builders potentially, and if you build too late, then you're going to bash your head on terrain, and you're not going to be able to get up across the other side, but we managed to place it pixel perfect in this occasion, and I love getting pixel perfect building, especially when it doesn't really matter. There's something more satisfying about doing precise building when there are very, very little stakes, if any stakes at all, available for that build. Now, we do end up using an extra builder there just because we didn't bash all the way, or should I say just because we didn't dig all the way to the right. But that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. We have one builder to spare. Kind of generous, actually, with the skills. I'm not sure if it's because of how the Master System plays, or if it's because I'm back routing, or if it's a combination of the two, plus them being very generous with the skill set for once. I have noticed that a lot of these levels we end up with zero of any skills, barring maybe a blocker and a bomber at the end, so that says to me that they do like giving you just enough and no more. And I like that. It does force you into some creative solutions and these levels have made me think about what I'm doing in Lemmings for the first time in a very, very long time. I've stuck to the original 120 levels for the best part of 30 years or so, and it's at this point where I kind of know what the solution is, especially on this version, to each of those levels. So now having a way to play a bunch of levels all in one game, as opposed to only being able to do one at a time, and building on the foundation that Pooty made all those years ago, it feels bloody brilliant, and it's because of the work of people like Pooty that this is all possible. Like, Pooty laid very, very, very solid foundations, and then I have been able to use those to get to a point where we're able to do some pretty good stuff with Lemmings. Now, this level, Fallen No Life, this is one of those levels with quite a big difference compared to what you'd expect to see on the Mega Drive version. And that is because we don't have a thin one-way wall. In fact, neither of the sand tile sets originally had a one-way wall, so I had to put them in. But again, room is tight in the sand tile sets, so I couldn't make the teeny tiny wall, and instead we're going for a single pit. I don't think it changes the intended solution in any kind of game-breaking way. Now, we do have some pixel-perfect building to get across in this one. In the Master System version of Lemmings, a single builder will cross 3 tiles, so that wide still column there at the bottom, that is exactly one builder's width. So that means if you build right at the very edge, the final pixel, before you fall off, you're able to stretch your builders out. We don't really have stretchy builders in the classic way here in the Master System version, because they are so narrow. It means that when a lemming shrugs, the next action is just to fall as opposed to walking forwards. For the most part anyway. I think if you TAS, you might be able to get one more pixel forward, but it's something I've not been able to do without save states in real time consistently. Now, this level is one of those levels that looks an awful lot worse than it actually is. I love that kind of level though, where they add so many red herrings and so many distractions that the obvious solution is staring you in the face the entire time, but you can't see it for looking at it, and that was definitely what I was like with this level for quite some time. I'm not going to say how long it took me to find the solution to this level, but it was certainly far longer than it should have been, because I try and avoid looking at the solutions until after I have solved the level. That way I can first of all find out whether my gut instinct on the Master System version is a back route compared to what is intended for the level, and secondly, it means that I'm not blindly following a tutorial and just getting the level done in the way that the tutorial says. But yeah, I really like this one. I think it is the kind of level that there should be absolutely far more of in Lemmings. Those kind of levels where at first glance you go, oh bloody hell, what am I supposed to do here? And then you take a little think, you try a few different solutions, you look at the skills you've got in front of you, and then suddenly it becomes obvious that most of the level is a blooming red herring. And that is how we get through this level. Let's now move on to one of our final levels in this pack. This is Keep All Enemies Out. It's a 3-minute with 100% to be saved, and this one is one of those other levels with quite a drastic change. In fact, I would say this has the most drastic change of any level that we've seen so far together. This one, I have tried to keep it as close as possible to the original solution, but because of the way the diggers work on the Master System version, we cannot dig on that left-hand side of the pole. If we dig on the left-hand side of the pole, our bottom left pixel is going to be air, so we're only going to dig for one cycle, and then we will no longer be digging and we'll just keep on walking. So with that in mind, I tried to design a solution where you still did have to dig out the pillar, but instead of digging it on both sides and having 2 climbers, we have just 1 climber and we do some mining shenanigans. I haven't seen this type of solution in any vanilla, or should I say official level. I don't know if people have done it in ROM hacks, probably have, because it's not a very, very original type of solution, but I like it nonetheless. And what you've got to do here is start building over after you've dug a little bit, but you've got to make sure that you build fairly high up so that you can then bash your head on there and have room to mine out the bottom down below. Now, it is a little bit risky doing that mining, because there is a chance that the lemmings won't click on to the bridge and then they'll fall into the drink. You've then got to try and turn this lemming back around, and then there are 3 builders left. Like we said in the previous level, one builder can fit across a 3 pixel wide gap, or should I say a 3 tile wide gap. We get the perfect build, and that means that we can start building up. I put that little nodule there on the ground to try and give you an indication of where you can start building up to get up to the still bits, because I found without that nodule it was a little bit of guesswork, and it's quite a long level with all the digging. So I tried to make it as intuitive as possible. That's something I've been doing in the later levels that I've recreated. I've tried adding little decorative hints as to where things are or where things should go, especially with the hidden traps, because I think it's a little bit frustrating if you've done 90% of the solution to a level, and then out of nowhere a trap comes to ruin your day. It's happened to me a few times in hacks that I played 15 odd years ago, and it's definitely happened to me when playing some of the standard levels, so definitely going to try and avoid that in these recreations. I think we've done quite a good job so far of avoiding any of the nonsensory that you will often see in Lemmings. I do think the one poor design choice was having so many traps towards the end of levels that came out of nowhere. The one level that stands out to me, not in this version because I got rid of it, but the one level that stands out to me for that is Kumbanwa Lemmings Sun in Fun 24, I believe. That foot, or squisher, whatever you want to call it at the very end, horrible, horrible piece of work. And talking of horrible things, this level, I can't stand it. It is my least favourite level that I've recreated so far, and it's up there in like my 5 least favourite Lemmings levels of all time. I really don't like this one. It's a dirt style level, my least favourite style. It's got a nonsense trap on the bottom row, something we were just talking about, and I couldn't get the skills anywhere close to the Mega Drive version. I don't know if it's my solution that's out of whack, or if it's just we need extra builders in this version, because I can't really do the terrain in the exact same way that it was on the Mega Drive version. But I have now finally got something vaguely resembling a level that is playable. I'm sure this solution is not the intended solution, and I just cannot see the intended solution that only used 9 builders for this level. If it does exist and you're able to record it, please do show me. I would be eternally grateful, because I've been tearing my hair out about this level for quite some time. This is one of those momentum killer levels I was talking about at the beginning of this video. Those ones where it just takes the wind out of your sails, because it's hard to do, it's hard to design, it's hard to play, and because there's so much building and so much width to it, if it goes wrong, then you've got to go right back to the beginning and you've wasted 5 minutes of your time. And those 5 minutes do start adding up. I have used a few save states, as I'm sure you've seen, throughout the course of this video, just because it was taking far too long to do each level in one take, because I had to think about what I was trying to get out of the level as I was playing it. I was trying to think about what the intended solution might be. I was trying to think about what my solution is, and a lot of the time it's really hard to keep focus while also trying to play and make it look good on screen, which is something that is a lot harder than I thought it would be. It's not like Pokemon where you don't really control what is on the screen. The camera moves automatically. With this, we've got quite a bit of leeway. Now, the one thing I will say in this level's favour is you do have the really, really nice thing of meeting up with 2 bridges next to each other, so that the lemmings all meet in the middle and you can just bash through and not have to worry about any kind of height difference. Or at least that would have been the case if I'd have placed my builders correctly. That left-hand builder that's building now is ever so slightly too far left, and that means that we are slightly lower, but we can counter that by the fact that I gave the left-hand side of this one-way wall a little bit of uneven terrain just in case that did happen, so you do get a little bit of leeway. It's the far left of this level that went through several redesigns, and also where that builder is at the bottom, there's a trap in the Genesis version. I think it's a 100-ton trap. So I put the bear claw down, but because we don't have the marker for the bear claw, I decided to try and make it a little bit obvious that you might need to build up in that section, which is why the terrain under the steel goes away at that point. Now, I do believe in the original Mega Drive version you don't need to build up here, and that is one of the differences between this and the original level. But I do think I've captured the essence of this level fairly well. You've still got to meet in the middle, and you still have to trap the lemmings on that left-hand side and set one lemming going off to the left and have one go under. So I think overall I can call this a bit of a success of a level, even if I'm not fond of it myself, even if I think I could have done far better designing this level with the terrain and everything to do with it. But I think that just says more about my self-confidence and self-belief when building with the dirt style than it does with anything else. It's my weakest style for a reason. I can't really get any of the textures working. I'm looking at that bottom bit now under the goal and thinking I could have done that a million times better. But I think even if I did it a million times better, I'd still be looking at it and thinking I could have done it a million times better. And a lot of the texturing that I do comes straight from the original game, and if it's good enough to be released for actual cash money moolah, then it should definitely be good enough for me. But I'm very much a perfectionist when it comes to recreations, because they're not coming from my own brain, and they are the work of somebody else originally. I want to do them proud. I want them, if they by chance see this, for whatever reason, I want them to know that as much care and attention went into recreating it as went into making it in the first place. Because I think that is the way you should be when you're recreating stuff. If you do a half-arsed job, then you're not doing it correctly. But we are through this horrible, god-awful level, and we can move on to our penultimate level. This is Watch Your Fingertip. 95% to be saved on this one. And this is another one of their very, very famous bash or mine or dig through dirt for a very long time, while you trap the lemmings in an unusual place kind of levels. So it'll come as no surprise that we're going to be fast forwarding through a lot of this level as well, but I will say that timer is very, very, very ominous in this level. 3 minutes with the Master System engine is significantly harder than I think it would be on the Mega Drive engine. On the Mega Drive I think you'd have probably about 40 seconds to spare. On the Master System version, even with saving time and doing some weird strategies, you're still cutting it very, very, very fine. Now, the gimmick for this level, at least the gimmick that I found, I'm not sure if it's the intended solution, is to bash through into this pit here, up the release rates that everyone else goes into the pit, have one turn around, he's going to do the double turn around, and then he's going to start mining his way through. Now, in hindsight, I possibly could have started mining going leftwards and then done a build and turned around. I think that might have been the intended solution, looking at the number of skills available, but it didn't come into my brain until just now, and that's quite often the case when solving the levels. When you're talking about them in hindsight, they say hindsight's 20/20, and that's very, very true when you're solving Lemmings levels. You think, oh, I could have done it that way, or at least that is me. I do think that if I were to re-record a solution for this level, I would mine left and then start bashing right. Although it's probably not going to save as much time as you would expect. We're also able here to exploit some quirkiness of the Master System version. Unlike practically every other version of Lemmings, you only need a single pixel of tile to be bashed away for your basher to continue. So that means if you align yourself just at the very bottom of this little bit of steel here, then you are going to be able to start bashing through in just one basher. But this is one of the laggiest parts of this video, but because I wanted to show the basher mechanic off, I couldn't really get it off screen because he's underneath the entire pack of other Lemmings, so we're just going to have to deal with seconds being about double, maybe even close to triple what they are in reality, and of course we're playing on 50 Hz, so everything is slowed down even more. But as you can see there, we only need the single basher to get through, and that leaves us one spare basher. And what we can do with this one spare basher is set the first Lemming to drop as a basher straight away, and that will let us create a little bit of a better blocking system, and it means that all those Lemmings that are turning around up top now are not going to be going the full way to the left and the right, and I think that might have saved the level. It might have been that little bit of a time save there that meant we were able to get through the level in one go, because we're already down to about 35 seconds left on the timer, and I said time was tight on this one, didn't I? We did manage to bunch them up fairly well considering they had quite a long walk, and I'm very glad as well that that final little bridge section there, even though it's mostly black, it is just about solid enough for the Lemmings to climb up as opposed to falling into the pit down below. That was something I was worried about when I was playtesting this level, that I didn't need to create a custom tile with any kind of like stealthy black tiles in place. They did it for me, and you can see there, getting through with just 13 seconds to spare, but we 100%ed the level. And that brings us on to our final taxing level. This is watch right or left, not to be confused with watch right and left, which is a horrible level. This one is about as basic as it comes. It's a symmetrical level with one entrance, a few miners and a few builders, and that's all you really need. Because what we're going to do is we're going to set that first Lemming to start building right at the top left-hand corner of the still block, and that will get us perfectly in alignment with the pillar. Then we're going to mine through the bridge there. We are going to then let one Lemming turn around in a little while and cut off the other bridge so that the Lemmings don't start walking off the other side, because the first time I tried this level I forgot it was symmetrical, and so I let all the Lemmings go to the left and they all went into the pit, which wasn't a smart move in the slightest. Now, because of the timings with the release rate, I am going to have to use an extra miner compared to the optimal solution for this level. If you mine around about that y-axis, then you are definitely going to be able to use just one miner. And again, timings there mean we're wasting a few skills compared to what we could be doing, but we have plenty of spare builders, so we don't need to worry too much. And in fact, we can then release the Lemmings a little bit early because they're going to be completely safe, and now they're not going to start walking all the way down to the bottom. So if you do that with the correct timings, you're going to save a little bit of time overall. We can use another miner there to get rid of the bridge, so we don't need to worry about directional builders, and then we can just rebuild the bridge with one of our own builder bridges as opposed to the level terrain bridge. And then one final builder is all we need to complete the taxing set of levels, and now we're just waiting for all of the Lemmings to go in to the goal. There was no need to up the release rate on this level either. The final Lemming came out well before the other Lemmings had done their little turnaround, and I do like having those levels where the entrance and exit are very close to each other, but it isn't as simple as just walking in to the exit. That's something that they really did need to fix in Fun 27. You use one miner in the Master System version, and that's all you need. It is the easiest level, and then I think the repeat you can do exactly the same because the release rate's still set to 1. But that is the end of the taxing level pack. I hope you've enjoyed the showcase of the 13 replacement levels in taxing. If you have and you've really enjoyed yourself, think about subscribing, think about maybe leaving a like on the video and leaving some feedback down below. But I am now going to say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in Mayhem.